Welcome to section 18.3, part 2. This is the 188th session of the CISSP exam prep series. This part completes the recovery strategy by finishing the tour of alternate sites and adding database recovery. In this session, we'll compare the faster recovery facilities and the ways you keep data ready off-site. What is a hot site, and when is it worth the cost? Where does a warm site fit in between? What are mobile sites and cloud recovery good for? Why are mutual assistance agreements rarely used? And how do you keep a database recoverable off-site? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because the site you choose is a direct trade between money and recovery speed. Picture an online brokerage that loses trades the instant its systems go dark. For that firm, waiting weeks for a cold site would be fatal, so it pays for near-instant failover. Your job is to match the recovery facility to how much downtime and data loss the business can actually survive. So what is a hot site, and when is it worth the cost? A hot site is the opposite of a cold one. A fully equipped backup facility kept in constant working order. Servers and workstations are pre-configured, software is loaded, and production data is replicated continuously or periodically. If replication is live, you switch operations over in moments. The protection is unmatched. But so is the price, because a hot site roughly doubles your spending on hardware, software, and staff. Remember, it also holds copies of your production data, so it needs the same security as your primary site. Some firms tame the cost by using it as a test environment or sharing it, though sharing risks lockout in a widespread disaster. Where does a warm site fit in between? A warm site is the sensible middle ground. It keeps pre-configured equipment and data circuits ready to run, but unlike a hot site, it does not hold a live copy of your data. To bring it online, you transport backup media in and restore your critical data onto the standby servers. That step means activation typically takes at least half a day versus the seconds or minutes a hot site needs. In exchange, you dodge the heavy telecommunications and staffing costs of keeping data mirrored in real time. If you share a warm site, write a no lockout clause into the contract so demand never leaves you stranded. What are mobile sites and cloud recovery good for? A mobile site is a self-contained, relocatable unit, often a trailer with its own environmental controls, that you can deploy wherever a disaster strikes. It shines for workgroup recovery and is usually set up as a cold or warm site, since you rarely know in advance where it will land. Cloud recovery has become the go-to for many organizations. You store ready-to-run images with a provider and avoid most operating costs until a disaster actually activates the site. If you rely on the cloud this way, negotiate a resource capacity agreement so the provider is contractually bound to supply the capacity you will need when everyone else needs it too. Why are mutual assistance agreements rarely used? A mutual assistance agreement is two organizations pledging to shelter each other's operations in a disaster, sharing facilities without a big capital outlay. On paper, it looks wonderfully cheap. In practice, three problems sink it. Enforcement is hard because a partner who is unharmed may quietly renege when the moment comes. Proximity is a paradox, since partners close enough to be useful may be hit by the very same disaster. And confidentiality worries make firms reluctant to hand their sensitive data to an outside party. These agreements work best between two units of the same company who already share an incentive to cooperate. How do you keep a database recoverable off-site? You pick from three techniques: trading cost against how little data you can afford to lose, guided by your recovery point objective. Electronic vaulting ships full database backups to a remote site in bulk, which is simple but can leave a real gap since you recover only to the last vaulting run. Remote journaling is faster, moving transaction logs frequently, often hourly, so far less is lost. Remote mirroring is the top tier and the most expensive, keeping a live server at the backup site that receives every change as it happens, ready to take over instantly. Pick the one that lands inside your recovery point objective, because losing more is risky and losing less than needed just wastes money. So let's bring it together. A hot site delivers near-instant recovery at roughly double the cost, while a warm site saves money by holding equipment but not live data. Mobile sites travel to the disaster, and cloud recovery keeps costs low until you actually need it, backed by a capacity agreement. Mutual assistance agreements look cheap but rarely survive enforcement, proximity, and confidentiality problems. And for databases, you scale from electronic vaulting to remote journaling to remote mirroring, always staying inside your recovery point objective. Match the tool to the tolerance, and recovery becomes a budget decision, not a gamble. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.